Hello, lesson number 25. I want to talk just a little bit about improvisation now. Because we're still staying at Cumberland Gap, and what I talked about was like going from this G, covering the sixth, and then when we did the variations, we already did. We're still covering the sixth. Now, improvisation, in bluegrass, a lot of times, if you just play something that has nothing to do with the melody, it's okay, but it doesn't really, you lose people very quickly, and sometimes you want that. But one concept of improvisation is that you actually go to a place that is expected, but the way you get there changes. Okay, so I have Cumberland Gap. And you see in the variation that I gave you, I went. See, and it still goes there, but it got there in a different way. Now, you can think of your own ways of how to get to this note. Like, for instance. You get the idea. So even if you have this bar variation, you can also go like come up with something. Something that you could incorporate, but we're still playing Cumberland Gap. We're still covering the sixth somehow. They don't. Even the sixth doesn't have to come exactly on that note. It can come, a quarter note later, but you're just sort of covering it in that neighborhood, and that's a very good way of starting your improvisation skills. So when you listen to a tune, a fiddle tune, you can hear that a fiddle is not playing exactly what the banjo is playing. I mean, a fiddle is not going to play all the notes that the banjo is playing, or a banjo sometimes plays all the notes that the fiddle is playing, but a lot of times it don't. The banjo plays a different version, it plays its own version of it, and I will talk about that, in a more extensive, improvisational video series. But just to give you an idea, it's just very important to understand that music sort of goes from one place always to another, and the journey of how it gets to that place and covers this, grander type of interval or feeling that you want to capture. That's why you can variations on that melody go in there. That's what's meant by playing around the melody. You're not playing sort of around the melody. You get into the similar points, but how you get there is the art. And great musicians just found great ways of getting to these points in melodies. Like Bill Monroe once said, they asked him what is a good solo, and he said, well, it's the melody played in a good timing. And I still think that's a brilliant short explanation of a good interpretation of a melody. Because the phrasing, like Cumberland Gaps, but it comes right there on that bar, on that second half. But it doesn't need to be exactly there. It could be like. Here. And that's what then I enjoy listening to musicians. I say, wow, it's interesting. They have a nice little variation on the same theme. I remember I once saw Bob Paisley and Dan Paisley. I saw them up at a festival in where was that? Somewhere, I think Joval. It was Joval, and my brother Uwe and I we sat in front of the stage and we watched them play, and they played Cotton Eye Joe. They played a version of Cotton Eye Joe, and the fiddler Fiddler played his version. It was so cool, and the bass, boom, boom, boom. Such great timing, and Danny Paisley plays this rhythm guitar, this D18, and it really comes like a wall at you. And then a banjo player played, phenomenal banjo, and it just played so clean, just this one version, really, really, really good. And then comes the fiddler again, and there's no variation. He plays the same thing again, and then comes the banjo player again, plays exactly the same thing again. But it was so persistent and good, and then there was no variation needed. The world had changed between the first time through and the second time through. So the second time you saw it, you perceived it differently, but it was just great. So I'm just saying that was a little plaidoyer for not overthinking sometimes. A great version is a good version, and but sometimes it's just fun to have a little variation. So improvisation comes in handy, and improvisation comes in most handy when you're lost. Then you gotta find your way out and sort of make sense of it, and that's when you get panicked and then you have to improvise. But anyway, I talk a lot more about that in another video. Just try a few things, okay? Don't be afraid of trying, your own kind of melodies.